Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, on the Frankfurt Book Fair 2024 from our PEN Germany stand here on the book fair. We will talk about Myanmar today. My name is Astrid Vehstedt. I am the Writers-in-Exile officer of PEN Germany and the vice president. I would very much welcome to present Thida from Myanmar and Phyu also from warm welcome. We have two sections today, and we start with Thida. Introducing Thida would be a long story. I try to cut it short. She's the former president of PEN Myanmar, and she's now the Writers-in-Prison officer of PEN International. She is a doctor, a trained doctor, studying in the 1980s in Myanmar, and she's a surgeon. She worked later as a doctor in Myanmar, especially on the so-called Muslim-free hospital, which is caring especially for poor people. And already in very young years, she became a very known, as we say, progressive author in Myanmar. So she's both. She's a scientist and she's an author. Her books she wrote in Myanmar because Myanmar is known even today as a harsh dictatorship. So she was writing a book under a pseudonym, and this was the name was Suraganika, which means the brave traveler. And I think when we talk with Thida, she really is a brave traveler. Not only a brave traveler, but also a very brave person, because she spoke out in Myanmar, and she was not afraid to write about her thinking and about her protest against the oppression in Myanmar, which finally led to a prison sentence of a little more than 6 years. And I think it is hard to imagine what this means. I think we will later have a chance to talk about this, because she got involved in the protest movement in Myanmar, and she also supported Aung San Suu Kyi, who was under arrest for many years. And finally, she became very ill in prison, and so she was released also because of international pressure, especially from International PEN, Amnesty International, and other humanitarian organizations. Finally, she got out and she went to the United States. She was teaching at Harvard University. She went to Europe, and even today she is a traveler, a brave traveler. We're very happy to have her here now in Germany. She is since last year Writers-in-Exile scholarship holder, and we will start with a book which she wrote now about the uprising in Myanmar. It is the struggle for democracy in Myanmar between 2011 and 2023, and maybe I think longer, because the struggle never ends. But you see already this amount of work in it. It is a very, very interesting book, because we have very little information about Myanmar here, and especially in Europe. Everybody is looking at the Middle East, at Russia, Ukraine. So it is. We are really happy to put this also in the focus of attention. And so Thida will read one small chapter from this book, and then we will have a talk, and then later we come to Sabal.
Thank you everyone. And I wrote this book as it's kind of the continuation of a struggle. I published a book called The Roadmap, The roadmap is reflected from 1988 until 2010. So this book will be the following book, but yeah, I cover mainly on the struggle after the COVID in 2021. But of course, I do need to write some things about the in-between period. But I'm going to read this one passage. It's a You can see the more than 400 pages is part of it. Yeah, I'm not going to read the whole sections, but yeah, part of it. It was 8:05 p.m., and amidst the engulfing darkness of the night, stood a young couple dressed in white hospital gowns, each holding a flashlight. Their stethoscopes, glinting in the dim light, hung over their shoulders as they battled through the darkness, excitement coursing through their veins. They were headed towards the source of burning flames and billowing smoke that filled the somber blue night air. "My dear," one of them began, "we've already handed over our belongings, a few pieces of jewelry, to our parents. Before we depart, there's something I must say. We don't know when we have the chance to meet again." We knelt down and paid our last respects to our beloved parents, our benefactors, begging for their forgiveness. And now, we are ready for our mission. We're ready to risk our lives. "Well, bullets are blind, you know," the other replied. "They don't discriminate between a life-saving doctor and a fool. A bloodthirsty bullet may come from anywhere, and we could be shot at any time. It sends a chill down my spine, of course. But as a medical practitioner, I simply want to live and die with a clear conscience." Seized by the revolutionary spirit, both young doctors were determined to do something for the victims. As they paddled along their way, they encountered fellow cyclists who cheered them on, all pedaling their bicycles at breakneck speed. Spotting the two doctors, dressed in white gowns, some local residents standing on the roadside began clapping their hands, their applause echoing through the darkness. Passing by a monastery, they encountered an old monk standing in the shadows. He bestowed his blessings upon them and uttered, "Please take care." Along the roads, burning tires had been piled up as barriers to prevent soldiers from entering residential compounds. Some people swiftly removed the tires to allow the two young doctors who had come to rescue to pass through. "Chin up, son. I'm with you," one of them reassured the other. "Picture your little son in the eyes of your friends. Don't let yourself down," another urged. "Dad, Dad, can you hear me?" echoed the voice of a distressed individual. Amidst the chaos, dead bodies lay scattered everywhere. Some had been brought here after their demise, while others were dying souls who had arrived just before their final breath. "I'm a surgeon. I'm at your service, sir," one of the doctors declared, ready to lend aid wherever needed. "The operating theater needs you right now. There are so many patients, quite a handful," exclaimed a distressed voice. Outside the hospital, gunshots pierced the night air, and emergency ambulances arrived one by one, each carrying gunshot victims, wounds penetrating heads, abdomens, limbs. The smell of blood permeated everywhere, with gunfire echoing through the silence of the night. "You bloody fools! You bloodthirsty murderers! You keep on taking precious lives, and we keep on saving them. Let's see who wins," shouted one of the doctors in sheer sheer frustration. "Doc, take a look," exclaimed a horrified nurse. A patient with a gunshot wound through the skull. His brain protruding stumbled out of his hospital bed and collapsed on the floor. Doctors, nurses, and volunteers sprang into action, attending to multiple critical cases simultaneously. There was no discrimination based on seniority or specialization. Everyone pitched in wherever they could. The general practitioner informed patients who had received treatment and boasts of patients that he would provide free floor-up care at his clinic for the next few days. Meanwhile, the public health professor, though not involved in clinical treatment, tirelessly worked to prepare operation fees and coordinate with the blood bank for transfusion if needed. Leader doctors and team members were all fully occupied, their foreheads sweating with exertion. In line with an appeal from healthcare personnel dated February 18, 2021, stating that civil disobedience movement activities would not interfere with emergency healthcare duties. These dedicated professionals demonstrated that their commitment was more than just words. Without their ethical and loyal service, the number of deaths and casualties on March 14, 2021 would have been even higher. "I feel a little hot here," a middle-aged man said, pointing to his bleeding chest where a bullet had lodged. A teenager with an innocent face, his left arm crushed, calmly addressed the doctor. "Sir, please attend to the more serious cases first." "Doctor," another patient lying on a hospital bed remarked, "I'm grateful the bullet missed my leg bone." "I'm okay, well done," said the left-handed uncle who had his left hand cut off. "Please operate on my back and get the bullet out quickly," said a young man ardently. "And then, please give me a glass of water, and then I return to fighting them again." Families and friends of patients gathered outside the small operating theater, eagerly awaiting news of their loved ones turned for treatment. However, the patients themselves were steadfast in their belief that no one held the very important VIP status in such dire circumstances, willingly allowing those in more urgent need to go first. Meanwhile, members of the Red Cross went above and beyond their call of duty, not only attending to patients' needs within the hospital, but also providing assistance at the X-ray departments and delivering donated food and medicines. Despite the curfew, local residents braved the dangers to send provisions like eggs, fried rice, coconut noodles, milk, and water to the hospital. The night witnessed the tireless efforts of countless unsung heroes in the hospital of Yangon. I think I stopped here.
Thank you, Thida. So with this chapter, you go right into the dark heart of the revolution or of the uprising in Myanmar. There's a sentence about this where you put the doctor and the violence against each other, and you're a doctor yourself, so you're supposed to save lives. So what are you feeling if you see this in this killing?
Well, it's really, really hard for me to see people die, people suffer. It's unbearable. And later in that part, and the one medical doctor, the way he thought is, of course, with one bullet, they can kill so many people. But with only a surgical scalpel, how many lives we can save in one time, at one moment. Finally, he decided to join the armed revolution. because the solution. That's why I think most of the intellectuals, people in Myanmar right now, they have no more choice because of the intense unilateral attack to the civilians, especially later in the 2022, 23, 24. Until now, there are more than 1,500 airstrikes to the civilian, targeting nursery schools, hospitals, monasteries, churches, the mosques, everywhere by the military, the coup military. So people have no more choice. Even for the doctors, they are now joining as a medics, but they just join the armed revolution because there are no more choice for them.
This is a very sad development, and because we were discussing this very often in Europe, with several wars also inside Europe, like in Yugoslavia, is whether it is possible to stop a war, to stop bullets only with singing or with meditation, with peace movement. And especially Myanmar is basically a Buddhist country, and you have the monks, the monasteries. But apparently this is completely helpless in this situation.
Well, yeah, but the problem is the military, even though they said, we call for the peace talk, but at the same time, the military deliberately airstrikes on the civilians' villages. They deliberately targeted the nursery school. How comes, So that's making us very difficult. I always prefer the peaceful protest, but I cannot say please don't fight against. They lost everything they have, their lives, their properties, their future already. So it's very difficult situation until and unless we have more international intervention to make the coup military stop everything. But right now, on their side, Russia, China, even Iran and North Korea are helping. But for our side, none of the other Western democratic countries deliberately supporting. So the diaspora of Myanmar are the only people who support the revolution, who support this fight. Not in terms of the lethal weapons, but in terms of the humanitarian aids. Because of this, after the military coup, right now, more than 3.5 million people are internally displaced. So the burden for the resistance forces is not just about the battle, not just about the fight, but also about the taking care of these people. So you can imagine our effort is just to helping this 3.5 million IDP, but on the ground it's more and more challenging. Even in one moment, the military make the airstrike to at least 3-4 different places at the same time.
Where do they get the money from and the equipment?
Normally, they're the one who conquer all our resources. So they got the money from there, and they also got some support from the Russia and China, to be frank.
Yeah, there were many talks in the last months, and sometimes you expressed hope, and then it was changed back to a more desperate situation. I would like to deepen this, but then we sit here for 2 hours. And but I would like to come to the title of your book. It is A Maze. It is a pun, a Wortspiel in German, and it has a double layer in the meaning.
Yes.
So it is amazing, and it is the maze, which is the Irrgarten, and this really typically characterizes the situation, right?
Yeah. That's why I chose the dash A maze. It's not simply a labyrinth; it's also very amazingly crafted by the military. So after the 2010, they made the election. So the whole world thought, we were already on the road to democracy because of the election and transfer of the power to the elected bodies. But my argument is this one decade from 2010 to 2021, we were in a mix. We were no more on the road. Yeah.
We were discussing also in other similar discussions here the influence of propaganda, which is sometimes very, very hard. That you wonder how people can even think in a certain way, because the truth is very obvious. How is this in Myanmar? Because I have the impression that there's more skepticism towards the regime, right?
Well, yeah, the thing is the heavy censorship. It can easily combated by the free media, etc., etc. But if it is the heavy propaganda, it's very hard. It makes the people mindsets very locked up in the way we see things, you know. So the most successful tactics by the military all the way since 1962 is a propaganda, very heavy propaganda. But in this digital era, they also use the malinformation and disinformation campaign together with the hate speech against the minority. So it's really making our society in a maze, very big maze.
We had, when we were talking about Iran here on this podium, we were also reflecting on some sort of a double-bind situation that people are, on one hand, they are one personality inside the family, for instance, and when they go out, they have to take a different personality in order to survive or to get through something. Is this in Myanmar the same? Seem to be characteristic?
A little bit. I think for most of the society where the dictatorship has been more than a decade, each and every person's pretty much inclined to be the dictator somehow, you know, something like that. That's why I think not the same, but more or less the similar situation is going on. Yeah.
We go on to Thida because she has been in Myanmar during this this uprising. So she is in Myanmar not only a writer, but she's also an activist, also an activist for the refugees inside the country, which Thida was talking about. And you won in 2013 with your first novel, National Prize, Literature Prize in Myanmar. And you're also reflecting on the violence in your country. So after heavy persecution of the should say terrorist regime or the terror groups, she flew to Thailand with her daughter and lived for a certain time there. And but even in Thailand, she didn't feel safe. Because it is a neighboring country and you can never be sure whether there are also people from Myanmar infiltrating the society there in Thailand. So that in the end we got knowledge of her, and it was possible to bring her and her daughter to Germany. So first of all, warm welcome. She will start with something else, and she said this is something new because she will read a poem. And a very beautiful poem, although it has also a very sad background. And she will read it in Burmese. And I will, for the audience here, I will read then the German translation. But on the camera, we will make subtitles later. So please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us time to talk about our country and read our Thida's book and my poems. I read these poems in my first arrived in Germany last month with the support of Writers-in-Exile program. I read these poems for our people who are still fighting for the justice in our country, and for the sacrifice for their lives, their homes, their dreams, their loved ones. I wrote them for them this poem. To my latest poem in English translation's title in Burmese, the Vehstedt. I will read this poem in Burmese. Yeah. To Nukaleche, Ami Oha, Enigado, Lilo, Katatua Swepene, Chanagama, Kalang that Ringi Nilo, Chasing the Bima, Gabbing Nilo, the Number Shingolo. Niki Hala Jawa Lediga, Tamiaga, Kamne Tilo. The Golden Colonel Miago, Kapapa Pie, Really Intalama Hopino. Samuel Kalaha, Sheila Nulabai, Amiga Mirai, Bayu Duri. Litia made it Nainaha, really using up, Bobby Nipple, and shaking Avenue. A few years Zaza, Chitala Hati, Mini Nation Timo, Timmy Avenue. They would Java later in Sorale, Moving so more than low, Linsekwe. Dilone, and the Uchama, Bango with the TV Torai. Kiso Kitty Tilo, and the Uha, such a Nasindu, Shoshin Tidube. Say she, Mama, meeting the Koba, and we Tata Mumia. We do shiny, the city Yopi, the Pshapu Twekaya, Jamila. A penny Pio Piano, to see she in my room, she knows a Sajania. This is Didon, Chansa Onya, Leina. Open Pio Pina Java, Pisa Miaro, and Magania. Kiss of Galari, Shinjania, Banamusura, the Mini Janamo, Tanya, Pio, Jason. Should I teach the old book, among Yara has Shilano? This is China, a solution at them. Jerry, Mila, Jerry, Mila, and now we're becoming also, and they are shimming and ready. Kiko to Pantele, Vincent Zebori, Puri and Leva, finally, the Musa regard about her, and not to have some selling it. Any Leva, and they will have Chanaga, see and Silver. Maybe it's also Himari, music, Chino. Suka Atiwayabo, Tomito, Tony Toro, Ula Piazama, Penanzo, Granny Musil, Jerry, Homie, the Mirayama, Mulu, Tuteka, and they have Miran Jimmy, Kayotum, Kanga, Sutran Yaketa, Acho Bilu, Tito Paya, Yoruba. Oh, China Commander, Tanya Talavila. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It is really wonderful to listen to these sounds and to this language which we hardly hear in the Western world. So for our audience, I just read shortly the German translation, which certainly does not really catch the rhythm of your language because it's very difficult, but we get the sense of it. An meinen kleinen Stern. Die alte Mutter öffnete die Tür, zügig wie der Wind. Die Türklingel läutet, voller Hoffnung. Die Wildblumen am Zaun tanzen ausgelassen. Das gelbe Kätzchen auf dem Rasen schaut erwartungsvoll. Sei still, liebes, altes, unruhiges Herz. Es ist nicht die Heimkehr ihres geliebten Jungen. Das Warten zog sich hin. Immer, wenn sie sich nach ihrem Jungen sehnt, pflanzt sie Blumen. Als wäre deren Duft seine sanften, lieblichen Wangen, die sie küsst. Als wären die Pflanzen in ihrem Wachstum er, wie er laufen lernt. Als wäre der Wind, der die Blätter rascheln macht, sein fröhliches Lachen. Welch ein Leben hier vermisst wird. Und daher ist ihr Garten mit Blumen übersät. Die alte Mutter ist das Publikum in dieser schrecklichen Zeit. Sie sah, wie um sie herum kleine Heime niederbrannten. Und war Zeugin, wie brutal die vitalen Blätter in diesem Wirbelsturm abgerissen wurden. Und sie hörte die Schreie der zerstörten Herzen. Blutige Schulbücher und Rucksäcke und die verlorene Zukunft inmitten der Ruinen. Leben in dieser schrecklichen Zeit ist wie eine schwelende Wunde und ein Fluch. Die Nacht währt zu lang für einen einsamen alten Baum. Stille ist ein unaufhörlicher Schrei. Lieber kleiner Stern, siehst du das? Lieber kleiner Stern, hast du das gesehen? Schluchzt die alte Mutter. Und den Tagen das Licht wiederzugeben, verabschiedete sich ihr geliebter Junge von ihr und marschierte davon. Der schmerzvollste Augenblick. Die alte Mutter ließ die Tür einen Spalt offen und kochte ihm jeden Tag seine Lieblingsgerichte, strickte Pullis für den kommenden Winter, schmückte den Butterschrein wie bisher mit selbstgezogenen Blumen. Lieber kleiner Stern, wenn du meinem geliebten Sohn in jenem Land begegnest, singe ihm ein Schlaflied. Singe ihm sanft vor, dass Mama an der Hoffnung festhält, wie an dem letzten Blatt. Oh, es klingelt an der Tür. Hast du das gehört, kleiner Stern? Yeah, so it is a sad poem, but it is also full of hope. It has this contrast of the flowers, of death, of another country, of homecoming. So, what is you said you wrote it here. You had a distance now to what happened.
Yeah. When I was asked to write a poem, I just was thinking about mothers, because I'm a mother of a 6-year-old daughter. So I imagined if I was a mother of a son who joined in the revolution. Revolution. How would she miss her son, her loved one, and how would she hope his return to home? And that's why I wrote this poem. And for all the mothers in my country, who still holding the hope to their loved ones coming home. Yeah.
But you read also about the other world, so if they live in another world, continue to live, they are still there somehow, right?
Yeah, in the country, they still the youth, the many youth in our country still joining this revolution in different forms. They left their homes, and then many they had dreams before this revolution. Now they joined this revolution, and they still have hope to return home. Yeah.
So you were in the middle of this, and we can continue a little bit. We don't need to stop here. So you were in the middle of this revolution, and so what was your thinking at that time? Was this only against the aggressors, or did you also have other, let's say, even dreams in this violence? How to go on, and what kind of future there would be? Or didn't you have any time for this? Were you just struggling?
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult question for me. Yeah, it's maybe we understand it's maybe a long journey. Can I say? I don't know. Maybe a long journey. We have to struggle in many ways. But we still have hope to get our better days again in our country. Yeah.
So Thida was about 12 years of struggle, and we know in Europe we had 40 years in the last after the Second World War, a little less. We had more than 200 years, I think, if you start from the French Revolution as the first uprising. So democracy is not installing itself immediately. It is a long way, and you have also backlashes even here now in the Western countries. We are threatened by undemocratic forces. So I think we are somehow in the same boat, that we have to think about all together how this world could be better.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, in this world, well, we've seen many news on the many news. In many places, we can see conflicts and crises, and maybe some same with our country. Yeah.
Last year we had, maybe this is our last question or subject, which goes a little bit also in the future. Last year on the book fair we had a discussion about climate change, where also Thida was participating. And I think this is something which will really concern us all on this planet, regardless whether there's a tyranny or nothing, because it is really our real direct existence which is threatened. So maybe this is something which will join the entire world community one time together.
Yeah, I hope so, because it's a world, maybe many different places, different country, but it's like a home for every people. So we can try together. I hope so. Yeah.
Thida, what do you think about this?
Well, the situation in Myanmar has been worsened by the big flood recently. For that reason, I think the climate change is not threatening just Myanmar, but also the whole world. But the sad thing is, not every person on earth makes sense yet. We are one species, and we never enough sharing our suffering and concern with each other. That's why we still dividing ourselves, we still fighting each other and making the current era very disgraceful. So if we make sense back to the oneness, one species, and we can overcome.
And so we think about the little stars in the world, which is also the children, because we have a responsibility towards them and towards Earth and towards our living. So thank you both for being here and sharing your poetry and your literature and your thoughts with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.